The Australian Grand Prix was the first real moment in which Ferrari could clearly see how its new project worked in racing conditions. After the pre-season tests and weeks of simulations, Melbourne was the first serious test to understand where the car really was compared to its rivals and also to measure how Lewis Hamilton would adapt to his new stage within the Italian team. But what seemed to be just a difficult weekend turned into something much more interesting when the team began to calmly analyze what happened after the race was over. As always happens after each race, the engineers began to study the telemetry of both cars in detail. They compared the fastest laps, sectors, corner entries and exits, the use of the brake, the accelerator, and the behavior of the car in each phase of the circuit. This process is common within any Formula One team, but on this occasion something appeared that did not fit with what Ferrari had planned during the development of the car. What they saw in Hamilton's car data immediately caught the attention of the technical department. At various points on the Albert Park circuit, the Briton was attacking the corners in a different way than Ferrari expected. While the team's baseline indicated that it was safest to brake earlier and maintain a more conservative balance at corner entry, Hamilton was delaying braking and using the front axle much more aggressively than engineers had considered ideal. Normally, when a driver forces that type of behavior in the car, the result is usually instability or loss of control in the front axle. However, what was surprising was that the car responded with unexpected stability. The car rotated quickly towards the apex and allowed Hamilton to maintain a minimum cornering speed greater than what Ferrari had estimated in its simulations. This began to spark curiosity within the team because it meant that the car was operating within a performance zone that they had not fully explored. When engineers compared this data with Charles Leclerc's records, the difference became even more evident. It wasn't that one was faster than the other in absolute terms, but that they were both using the car in different ways. Leclerc was maintaining an approach closer to the balance that Ferrari had anticipated in its simulations, while Hamilton was pushing the car towards more aggressive behavior in the braking and rotation phases. This contrast began to reveal something important. Ferrari's car appeared to have a wider performance window than the team had initially thought. In other words, the car could be driven in more than one effective way, and Hamilton was exploring one of those possibilities almost intuitively. As the analysis progressed, engineers began to overlay the Australian data with records from pre-season testing and wind tunnel simulations. It was then that an even more interesting conclusion appeared. Some of the maneuvers that Hamilton was performing on the track generated immediate improvements in the car's behavior, especially in stability at corner entry and in the driver's confidence when attacking the apex. This meant that the car could offer more performance than Ferrari had managed to extract during testing. And if that potential could be exploited consistently over a full weekend, then the team's competitive landscape could change much faster than it seemed after the Melbourne race. What had started as a routine analysis after the Grand Prix ended up becoming an unexpected revelation for Ferrari. Hamilton's debut had not been brilliant in terms of results, but the data suggested something much more important. The Briton had begun to discover aspects of the car's behavior that not even the team itself was completely clear about. As Ferrari finished analyzing the data from the Australian Grand Prix, the conversation within the team began to change tone. What at first seemed simply a difference in driving style between Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc began to reveal something deeper about the car's actual behavior. Engineers began to realize that Hamilton was not only driving the car in a different way, but that he was unlocking an area of performance that Ferrari had not yet fully explored during the car's development. The key point came when the team overlaid several sets of data: Hamilton's telemetry in Australia, Leclerc's records during the same weekend, and the simulations Ferrari had run during pre-season. In theory, the car was designed to operate within a fairly specific window of aerodynamic balance and braking distribution. If the driver went too far out of that zone, the car's behavior had to become unpredictable, especially at corner entry. But the data showed something different. In several medium and low-speed corners, Hamilton was pushing the car to the limit of the front axle with an aggressiveness that, according to simulations, should generate instability. However, the car not only maintained control, but responded with a faster rotation towards the apex of the corner. This allowed the Briton to position the car earlier and accelerate earlier at the start, gaining time in areas where Ferrari did not expect to find it. For engineers, this difference became extremely interesting. If the car could withstand that level of braking attack without losing stability, it meant that the aerodynamic and mechanical balance of the car had more margin than they had initially calculated. In other words, the car's operating window was wider than the simulation models indicated. This led Ferrari to review something fundamental: the correlation between what they had seen in the wind tunnel, the computer simulations, and what was really happening on the track. Over the last few years, one of the biggest challenges for Formula One teams has been precisely that, getting the development data to match the actual behavior of the car when it finally competes in the race. And what Hamilton was showing in Australia suggested that there were aspects of the car's behavior that could only be discovered when a driver pushed the car beyond the limits that the team itself had established as a reference. But the surprise didn't end there. When Ferrari began to analyze the small adjustments that Hamilton had made during the weekend, minimal changes in the distribution of braking, in the way of loading the front axle, and in the general balance of the car, they discovered that these details generated immediate improvements in the driver's confidence. The car became more predictable when entering corners and allowed the apexes to be attacked with greater precision. In Formula One, that feeling of confidence can make a huge difference. When a driver feels that the car is responding exactly as he expects, he can push harder with each lap. And when that happens, the car's performance can improve even without introducing any technical updates. Therefore, an important question began to arise within Ferrari. What if the car had more potential than they had seen in testing, but simply no one had explored it in the right way until now? The possibility was fascinating to the team. If Hamilton had indeed found a different way to exploit the car's behavior, Ferrari could use that information to adjust the car's development during the next few races. It wouldn't just be about improving parts or introducing new aerodynamic updates, but about better understanding how the car should be driven to extract its maximum performance. At that moment, the internal reading of the Australian Grand Prix began to change completely. What from the outside seemed like a discreet start to the season could have actually been the first step in discovering the car's true potential. And if Ferrari could understand exactly what Hamilton was doing and why it worked, the team could begin to build the car's development around that new understanding of the car's behavior. But that opened another even more interesting question within the team. Because if Hamilton was discovering new possibilities in the car so early in the season, then Ferrari still didn't really know how far his own car could go. After several days analyzing the data from the Australian Grand Prix, Ferrari began to understand that what they had seen in Lewis Hamilton's telemetry was not simply a technical curiosity. It was a clear sign that the car had potential that had not yet been fully exploited. And when a Formula One team discovers something like this at the start of the season, the way it interprets the entire project can change radically. The Maranello engineers then began to do something that is absolutely key in Formula One: reconstruct the behavior of the car based on what the driver had done on the track. Every late braking, every aggressive rotation towards the apex, and every small steering correction was analyzed in detail to understand what was really happening in the balance of the car. What they found further reinforced the idea that Hamilton had opened a door that Ferrari was only beginning to see. Ferrari has always had two drivers with different driving styles, and in this case Hamilton's arrival was demonstrating something that can be very valuable for a team: two different ways of understanding the same car. While Charles Leclerc represented the closest reference to the behavior that Ferrari had envisioned during development, Hamilton was exploring new possibilities at the limit of the car's performance. That combination could become an extremely powerful tool for the team. Because when two drivers push the car from different perspectives, engineers can discover behaviors that would otherwise go unnoticed for an entire season. Therefore, a curious feeling began to emerge within Ferrari after the Australian Grand Prix. The race result had not been spectacular, but the team left Melbourne with something that may be even more valuable than a good result: a new understanding of the car. A deeper understanding of how the car could behave when pushed to the limits of its performance. And that left open a conclusion that was beginning to gain strength within Maranello. Perhaps the true potential of the Ferrari car had not yet been seen on the track. Perhaps the Australian weekend had not simply been the start of a season, but the moment when Lewis Hamilton began to discover what the Ferrari car could really do. In the end, the Australian Grand Prix left a very different feeling inside Ferrari than what could be perceived from the outside. While many simply saw a complicated start to the season, within the team the reading began to change as the engineers delved into the data of Lewis Hamilton's car. What they discovered was not a problem or a weakness of the car, but something much more interesting: a clue that the car had more potential than Ferrari had been able to show up to that point. Analysis of the telemetry revealed that Hamilton was driving the car in a way that opened up new possibilities for the car's behavior. The way it attacked the brakes, loaded the front axle, and caused the car to rotate at corner entries showed that the Ferrari's balance could work within a wider window than the team had anticipated during its development. And when that happens in Formula One, it means there is still hidden performance waiting to be discovered. For Ferrari, this revelation could have a huge impact on the rest of the season. It is not just about improving the car with new parts or aerodynamic updates, but about better understanding how the car should be exploited on the track to get maximum performance. When a driver finds that type of behavior in the car, the team gains a new reference that can change the way setups, strategies, and even future technical evolutions are developed. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.